Thank you for coming. Thank you for having me. I don't even know if I need this. You can hold your applause anytime. You can applaud for me. My name is David Feuerman. I was found from, I can't recall who at the library here in West Islip found me, but I was at the Babylon Farmers Market. I'm there about once a month. And so I'm a food scientist, and I'll go into my background and where I grew up, and just not to, I don't have to tell my whole life story, but it kind of helps understand, because you don't meet food scientists too often, and we kind of work behind the scenes, but I'm a pretty good communicator, so I guess I ended up running my own business, and I'll talk about that a little bit, but especially black garlic is such a fascinating food, and I'm so happy to introduce people to it. Every time I'm at the farmer's market, I get so many, there's a lot of confusion. Some of you already know about black garlic, you've bought it before. Some of you have never had it before. But there's a common reaction with people who've never had it. They hear black garlic. First they think it's a type of garlic, maybe. They don't understand it's a process. So I'll explain the process that I go about. So I'll just get right into it. Here we go. So here's a little overview, yes, about my company journey. As I just said, nutritional benefits of black garlic, recipes, applications, and then tasting if you haven't already done it. And my dad always likes to say, what problem does black garlic solve? And it's sort of and it actually does solve, I don't know if I'll delete that later, but it's sort of, it enhances something, and it's quite unique as a food, so I'm happy to share it. But why I became a food scientist, I was into running. I was captain of the Great Neck South track team. I don't even know if I need this. It's a little echoey. And I was always, I think the first food I ever had that a sports nutrition type of food was the Power Bar. And I thought nutrition bars, when you're young, you're not really thinking about your long-term health. You're thinking about your athletic performance or something like that. And I thought this bar, which the Power Bar was one of the first nutrition bars, basically like a maltodextrin, starchy, sugary bar, corn syrup, really not good. This is in the 90s, so I graduated high school in 1996. And this is the 2002 New York City Marathon. I ran a pretty good time, 3:52. I was aiming for a 3:30. It was the only marathon I ever ran. But I felt as a runner, it was like I had to prove myself as a runner. But so in college, I'll go into a little bit more, and one of my career goals was to actually make nutrition bars, which I ended up doing, and I decided I didn't really love doing it. But basically, I don't know if I just talked about it, I love engineering, rocketry, foods, cereals. I got into food science also. I was interested in just reading breakfast cereals, kind of like Jerry Seinfeld. And so other things about the Power Bar, yeah, I mentioned that. I was interested, I discovered I didn't eat fish a lot as a kid, and I discovered that omega-3s are so important for our health, for our brain development, for maintaining our cardiovascular system. So one of the things I haven't incorporated, it's very hard to incorporate dehydrated anything with omega-3s because it oxidizes, so really it's hard to incorporate fish oil. But flax seeds are one of the more stable sources, but they don't really taste very good either. So it's pretty tricky. And then the other thing that got me interested in food science was Olestra, which was in the 90s. I don't know if anybody here remember what Olestra was? Or Olean potato chips. So yeah, very bad, very bad. But initially there was a lot of excitement. Oh, you could eat as many chips as you like. For anyone who doesn't know what it was, I can explain. Scientifically, it tasted like fat. It was a substitute for frying oil, especially. So Frito-Lay, the largest potato chip manufacturer in the country, along with Procter & Gamble, who I guess they own the patent to it, they actually chemically modified sugar. And I don't have the molecule in front of me. What is a fat molecule? A fat molecule is a triglyceride. You heard about your triglycerides? So it's 3 fatty acids and a glycerol molecule. A glycerol is the same thing as glycerin. And so when you make soap making, they separate glycerin from fatty acids, and the fatty acids can then become another product which they use also. They separate them chemically. But so this Procter & Gamble company, scientists, they figured out a way to, for better or for worse, ultimately for worse, but they took the sugar molecule and chemically bound it to a fatty acid. And so your palate would taste fat, because the fatty acid molecule, they took a sugar molecule, for those of you who don't know, it's a sucrose and a glucose bonded together, called a disaccharide. And stop me if anyone has any questions. And then around the outside, typically, of this a sugar molecule has OH groups, oxygen, hydrogen, hydroxide groups they're called. And instead, those are actually reactive. And so these, with some chemistry, the sugar was attached to fatty acids all around. So your palate would taste fat, but your body wouldn't know how to digest it. So it would go right through you. And on the warning label on the back, it would say, thanks to a nonprofit group that really thought this was a toxic thing to consume. It couldn't be good for you. And one of the negative downsides to this was that while you wouldn't digest it, but it also would take any vitamins that were fat soluble, which are A, E, D, and K, would pass through your system, and you wouldn't digest it. So if you had any A, E, D, or K in your meal, you would be deprived of being able to digest it because it was basically dissolved in the olestra. So that was a fascinating thing about olestra. I wrote a term paper about it for my English class preparation for college, and it really helped me appreciate the bad sides, but understand what industry I was kind of getting into. So this was me in college, and this is at Cornell has a pilot plant, and they have a freeze dryer. And for those who don't know, you've heard of freeze dried this and that, especially fruits, like freeze dried strawberries are one of my favorites. What happens, freeze drying, as the name implies, the food is frozen, and how is it dried? Actually, a vacuum. I don't know, does anybody know that a vacuum is pulled? And so it's not evaporation. In chemistry, we've heard of evaporation, or just basically when water evaporates. In this case, it's called sublimation. Sublimation is the change of phase of matter from a solid to a gas, from solid to gas, rather than liquid to gas, which is evaporation. So in freeze drying, all these vegetables are being prepared for freeze drying. They put them in these stainless steel bins, and they're frozen in this special machine, a freeze dryer, and then the vacuum. But it's a very finicky machine, very hard to maintain. The vacuum pumps are difficult to maintain. They tend to get waterlogged because you're pulling water out, and it has to have a cold trap. It's supposed to capture the water on an extremely cold surface. So they're very finicky machines, and that's why, and they're very slow to process. So, but yeah, it was interesting. It was really exciting for me to know. So my goal was to get people to eat vegetables, and hence, what you're looking at here, one of my flavors of dehydrated vegetables in the front, it's been a lifelong passion. So this was a product I called the salad bar. And this was part of the food science product development team. It's a national competition among all the food science programs in the United States. And every state college in the United States has a food science department. So Penn State, University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign has a very good program. University of California, Davis, known for its wine program, also has an excellent food science program. So we all compete, and we did make the finals, but then the product had some issues. I didn't present at the national competition, but we made the finals of only six teams to make the finals. But the bar was getting moldy after the binding process. The professors had no idea what to do. They were like so theoretical. So, but it was cool. So we did make prototypes, but they didn't taste right. So I'm very proud of myself for finally achieving a quite tasty, and I have 5 different flavors now. So that's exciting. But yeah, that's a little bit about, and then my first job was here in Long Island at Nature's Bounty. And I don't know if you know, Nature's Bounty is in Ronkonkoma. It was, I was there from 2000 to 2004. That's me this is a lab scale tablet coder. So tablets are compressed powder. This is a tablet press. And similar to any type of vitamin or pharmaceutical, these are regulated as dietary supplements as vitamins, and they're not as strictly regulated in some ways, which is bad, but also it keeps it more affordable, because if they were regulated like drugs, then we wouldn't be able to afford them. A simple vitamin would cost 10 times as much. So, and this is the typical mixer that we had. This is actually a very small mixer, believe it or not. The mixers were like 3 times as big, like this size. And it's called a double cone blender. Anyway, so this is what's happening at Nature's Bounty when they measure carefully quantities, and my job was to, the toughest part was troubleshooting. So if a vitamin wasn't compressing, or an herb, or typically like ginkgo biloba or echinacea or any type of herbal extract, they vary in their compressibility, or how they flow into a capsule. So this is just a tablet. There's also capsule machines. On the lower left here is a capsule machine. So each of these little holes here holds a little gelatin. So when you have a capsule, they're made of either gelatin or it's a vegetarian gelatin, they call it, which it's not really from animal or pork. It's from a modified cellulose, which is, for better or for worse, that's the alternative. So anyway, so that's a little bit about Nature's Bounty experience. But I wasn't doing what I really wanted to do actually yet, was make a nutrition bar. So I got to learn more. So another company right here in Amityville was a manufacturer. They made the first protein bar to use, similar to a Rice Crisp, it was DuPont had invented a way to puff soy protein. And so the brand was famously the Zone Bar, private label for Zone. So if you remember in the early 2000s was the Zone diet. Barry Sears was his doctor. It was the 40-30-30 diet. It was actually a pretty healthy diet. And it was an exciting experience. So I got to see this is an extruded bar, this is a crispy bar, and it was kind of, but then I was wondering why what ultimately happened with this company was the Zone Bar was bought by Abbott Laboratories, the big drug company, Abbott, and they brought it in-house. They thought they could make the nutrition bar cheaper than we could, and they ended up not being able to do that, and they completely shut down the whole brand after, I think, about 5 years, sadly. It was the #1 selling bar in America. The company I was working for went out of business after they lost the client. My business experience I learned from this was private label is a difficult business to keep going because if you become too good at it for the customer, they're great at marketing. Eventually, they may sell the company to some other, let's say a Nestle or somebody, Kraft Foods. They'll then say, we can make it cheaper than you. We don't need you anymore. And then you're as a private label manufacturer out of business. So I have all the time people asking me. I'll show you my factory I've constructed, but it's very difficult. And even when I was at Nature's Bounty, we've had people saying, I want to make my own vitamin and put my own special mix in there, and it's really a difficult. I won't curse, but they called it a DFQ, and that was a draft for quote. But there was another thing that the people in manufacturing, my boss and other formulators would say, a DFQ stood for something else. It was not good. So anyway, it was hard to make money as a private label, and it's challenging, but it's possible. It's possible. So a little bit more. So here's my what kind of first inspired me to get into dehydration and making. I actually started with dog treats. I was so kind of burnt out by making nutrition bars and getting constructive feedback, but still it was difficult all the time trying to make a protein bar taste good. So dogs were getting sick by treats from China, and believe it or not, and so I don't know if anybody knows about this, even it affected infant formula, that this goes down to food science. The ingredient going into infant formula and to dog, especially gluten for biscuits, there's a test for protein in food science called the Keldol test. Without getting too, I find it interesting. It's very difficult to test protein content in food. So instead, the laboratory method is to test for nitrogen. And that basically, the food gets treated with acid and nitrogen gets evaporated, and that's detected by a machine, a special lab chromatographer. So the gluten was being adulterated with melamine, which is for countertops, and pretty dang horrible. So the same stuff in this melamine is used with urea to make a melamine compressed fiberboard. So it was killing dogs left and right, and then also sickened a lot of children. So this was sort of the start of reshoring of dog treats in particular. So I started my East Village apartment on the side, and then I met someone who was very entrepreneurial who kind of helped me kind of take a risk in converting a warehouse in Paterson, New Jersey. So for those who don't know, Paterson, New Jersey was the first planned manufacturing city in America. Alexander Hamilton selected the site because it's near the second largest waterfalls after Niagara Falls. And so before electricity, all of these raceways of little channels were built, and my factory's right on the Passaic River, but it was built in the 1940s, so it had these very thick beams, and so we had to clean the floors, clean the whole place up, but it was an opportunity for me to really get my hands dirty and learn about construction a little bit. So building these workrooms, I learned about, this is in 2014, 2013, learning about planning out my space. This is a break room, this is one processing room, this is another processing room, and then this is planning the dehydrator. So these are all different studs. And then planning the internals of the dehydrator. So the University of Oklahoma had a plan for small manufacturers, and I really studied it, and I made my own flow diagram just because I couldn't understand how it was working. And this may look really overly complicated, but it lays it out pretty well that the dehydrator needs heat, obviously. So where does that heat come from? It comes from a boiler, and the boiler boils water and it recirculates in a closed system, and the hot water gets crossed. There's a heat exchanger, this thing called a water coil, and from there, this AHU is an air handler, and it blows the air across the hot water, kind of like an air conditioner, except it's hot, or your regular furnace, and it gets recirculated up. And then there's something called a ventilation heat recovery, VHR, and so it's very energy efficient. It captures the waste heat, exhaust heat, which is laden with water, humidity, and the inlet air, which is much drier but cold, has to get preheated. So it gets preheated by the exhaust air and then gets heated again. So that's basically how my dehydrator works, and I'll show some more building the dehydrator. I did hire a guy who had this huge saw to make a floor drain, and then I kind of finished the job there. And then I did got to learn about electrical. I had a very nice landlord who kind of looked the other way a little bit. And then kept on pursuing, and I had two carpentry paid interns, Brian and Kenny, who were seniors at a vocational school in the area. And they were really helpful to get some stuff done. And that was my business partner plotting things and stuff. But he did his own. He was helpful in his own way, but he was there about 10% of the time. So I've been working on my own since 2017 or so about 8 years.
How long did it take you to do it?
Good question. Rented the warehouse April 2014, turned on the dehydrator 2015 September. So it was every day, nonstop, and then, but it was still more improvements were always needed. So here, this is treated lumber and electrical 8-gauge wire, and this is all the oriented strand board, OSB plywood, and this is the control panel. As it's growing, it's even bigger than this. And then here's bending the sheet metal like origami, and getting closer and closer, tiling, adding floor tiles. And this was the big fan, a 5¼ foot fan. This was very tricky, just little, you can see about 2 fingernail widths caused the fan to oscillate wildly if it wasn't perfectly plumb or perpendicular. And then installing the boiler, so the hot water coming out and then going back in, the recirculation. This is the ventilation, and here it is finished. And then this is a little funny story. There was a New York City firefighter who rented space. He was retired, and he stored motorcycles. And while we were still building the places, my business partner negotiated for him to store motorcycles temporarily, very, very fancy, like Harley Davidsons, on an area we weren't using in the warehouse. And one day he came up to us. He actually graduated from Columbia in architecture, and he built the architecture workshop, the whole wood shop. They didn't have a wood shop for the architecture school back then. And he didn't work as an architect. He had a girlfriend. He became a firefighter. And he was lieutenant of a firehouse on Great Jones Street. But he stopped us one day and says, "Guys, I got to talk to you about what you're doing right now in the construction." And we're like, "Uh-oh, we're not doing something wrong." Like we have a firefighter who's telling us. Turns out he says, "You got to lighten up the place. You got to make some doghouse vestibules." He showed us a diagram. He had an idea when he was taking a shower. So that's what we did. Okay, Mike, we'll do that. And so we built these doghouse vestibules to lighten it up. And then I have a walk-in freezer. It's one of the hardest trades. Of all tradesmen, I have great respect for. Incredible work. And HVAC-R, the R stands for refrigeration. This is a walk-in top. This is the top. So this sits on top of the freezer, and it was so difficult. But every day for a month, I studied how to do it. And in the end, the HVAC supply shop, they sold us. I'm sorry, I'll get to black garlic very quickly, but this is kind of interesting. They sold me every part I needed for the refrigerator except for this blue thing. And what this does is it keeps your compressor, which compresses the refrigerant, and then it gets cooled. So it's an air conditioner or refrigerator works by compressing a compressible gas, and that then gets hot, and then it passes the hot compressed refrigerant across ambient, like in the, let's say outside of your, in our case I didn't have to pass it outside, but that heat under high pressure releases to the outside world, and then through a heat exchanger, and then the pressure is released. And when the pressure releases, it gets very cold, the refrigerant. So that's how an air compressor works. But the problem was this compressor is designed only to compress a gas. And it's common for refrigerant, it changes state from liquid to gas. So if liquid makes its way into the compressor, which it does happen, the compressor burns out. And so there's this one device that captures the liquid at the bottom, and he didn't sell me that. It's like a $100 part. And having read the whole textbook, that was the only reason it saved my compressor from burning out. So I was really happy I did that. So it helps if you know. Like there's little tricks and these guys do. So here's Bill finishing up the place. I won't get any further. This is basically where I sleep when I'm working. And then this is the completed room. So here's one workroom where I do mainly the black garlic and the dried fruit and vegetables. And then this is an insulated floor. I do the dog treats. I do for 150 boutique pet stores that carry my treats through a distributor. So I do the processing in here, and then my freezer is through here. And then here's the walk-in freezer and the finished doghouse vestibules for Mike, the architect. And here's the dehydrator, the finished product, and making some sweet potato chews for the doggies, and then some other treats. And then this is where I heard about black garlic. So I wanted to make something. I didn't yet think there was a market for dehydrated vegetables and fruits. So I first, in the East Village where I used to live in the East Village, and there was this very famous spice market. I don't know how famous, but fairly famous. They have everything you could possibly want for a dried spice. And it's just, there's 2 Indian restaurants above this place. And I asked the owner, what's something that is sort of hard for you to get? I was trying to do market research. Just what's a hard dried thing? And he thought for 2 minutes, and he said black garlic. And I'd never heard of it before. And so I bought some and I tried it out, and I was like, wow, this is delicious. And I went on the internet and I saw how you made it, and I was like, well, you need a dehydrator. It's 150 degrees Fahrenheit. So that was the beginning. And so I did during COVID, when it was just ending, I did my first farmer's market with my black garlic and my dog treats. And this is the mayor of Glen Cove. I started doing the Glen Cove Farmers Market as well. And then in 2019, when I started, my dad likes to schmooze around. I wish he was here. He couldn't make it today, but he helped me get introduced to this is the Great Neck Record, my hometown paper, and it's a little story. I have a couple copies here in the front if you're interested. But it just talks about basically what I said about myself before, but a little bit summarized, and how I started making black garlic. And so now I'm up to quite a few products you can see here. So I started doing red apples, apples and pears, the vegetable jerky, which you've seen here in the front, peanut apples, green apples, walnuts, red apples, more of those. A granola version. So apples are a fantastic base for anything really, because they're already sweet naturally. You don't need to add any sugar, which is one of my requirements, a principle I have whenever I'm making anything, is not to add sugar. And the second thing is it adds fiber to your diet, and it's very slow digesting. So you'll find that I have friends who like to do sports, and actually it's better than a nutrition bar because it's naturally you can keep it in your bag or any sport you're doing or at the gym, and it doesn't have to be, you don't need all these complex, if you want protein, you can have nuts on there. You have peanuts or cashews or walnuts. So the high in omega, walnuts are the highest nuts in omega-3. So I'm very happy using pears and apples as a base. So how I got to black garlic, sorry for all that introduction, but it sort of tells a story. Cool, thank you. I'm happy to share. And I guess I added this tagline, nutritionally equivalent to eating 5 cloves of garlic in one without the smell. Sort of silly, but it is true. So it is, you got to give credit to Korea. They are the ones who first supposedly buried garlic in like a hot pit and kept it there for a month or longer, kept it really well sealed. Not exactly sure if they had proper ways of sealing it. So that was there is a Japanese method. From what I can tell on YouTube though, they call it black garlic, but it's not. So if you go to a ramen shop, they often say this is black garlic ramen. And it seems that they're really only using soy sauce with garlic, and they're just sauteing it quickly and then throwing it in, calling it black garlic ramen. So that's not black garlic in what we typically think of the Korean method. So very long time ago, and basically it's heated continuously for over a month. Possibly you can get it done less, like about 3 weeks, in a high humidity environment. So you don't want to let the garlic dry out. I think I get into the reason why. And then again, the temperature 140, I would say you don't want to go below 140 Fahrenheit. It will not caramelize. It will just stay beige. It won't turn black. And I'll say what I may get to the details, but it's called the Maillard reaction, M-A-I-L-L-A-R-D. It's the most common cooking reaction when you saute food with oil and not water, not vinegar, just with oil. The food will, whether it be a vegetable or meat, will brown very quickly. And that browning is called the Maillard reaction. And it's actually over 100 chemical reactions occurring, but it's, what kicks it off, or what's most known for, is the simple reaction of a sugar molecule, along with, and it's not any sugar, it's actually glucose, a reducing sugar, it's a little technical, with an amino acid from protein. So an amino acid and a sugar come together, and an H and an OH have to come off, which is H2O. And so when you add water, or if you boil food, you never get caramelization because you're inhibiting the Maillard reaction. So it's actually chemistry happening. So the history of black garlic as well, a little bit more. I'm going to take this glove off because it's stifling. There's actually, so I'm from Great Neck, which has a large Persian community who left Iran when there was the Iranian Revolution. The Shah was overthrown by the Ayatollah. So there's a lot of Persians. And when I was doing the farmer's market, I learned, it was kind of funny reaction I got from people. They actually pickle garlic for up to 30 years in vinegar. And so the reaction I got when people tried the black garlic every time was, what vinegar do you use? What vinegar? And I was like, well, what are you talking about? So they have something called sear torshi, or torshi sear, which just means pickled garlic or something like that. One of these is garlic, one is pickled. And they exchange it at family anniversaries or weddings, and they have it they keep it in their cellar, or so it's quite interesting. So, but it doesn't have typically the same antioxidants because the heat is actually needed. And I can go into the what did I write here? Has not been tested for SAC content, but is theorized to not have the same level due to different chemical reaction pathways. So the flavor is developed, but not the antioxidants. So let's see. So shelf life extension of black garlic. Why does black garlic? So black garlic has a much longer shelf life than traditional garlic, and I summarized into 4 reasons. Let's see. I didn't really number this, but number 1, the pH is 3.5. So neutral is 7. Neutral pH is 7. 3.5 is a slightly acidic pH. So that's reason number 1. Most harmful spoilage bacteria will ruin the food at anywhere above roughly 4.6. So there's a pH known, as a food scientist, the magic number you have to remember is pH of 4.6. Above that, Clostridium botulinum, which creates a botulinum toxin. That is, and you always want to be on the safe side if you're doing a food product. You want to go extra low. So 3.5 is a good safe threshold to prevent botulism. But also the fact that submerging any food in oil, for example, you can get they call it an anaerobic environment. Clostridium botulinum thrives in an anaerobic environment. So it's always something as a food scientist, that's the number 1 bacteria. So you always want to think, if I'm in an anaerobic environment, they call it low acid foods, meaning it's not acidic, it's more neutral. They're very dangerous. So people who do their own home canning, they need to add something acidic just as an extra precaution, in addition to high temperature to kill. But you should almost never have anyone's home canned food that has not been acidified with either citric acid or a lot of vinegar or something like that. So that's just something to keep in mind. 30 to 50% of the moisture does evaporate. It could be maybe a little less, 20% maybe, but if it's very dry, the black garlic, I have firm texture samples. I didn't distribute but the spreadable texture is so much more delicious. So it has a reduced water activity. That's a really fascinating concept in food science. So similar to honey, they found honey in the Egyptian pyramids. It was still good after thousands of years. And the reason why is it has very low water activity. And water activity is the amount of water available for microorganisms to grow. And the way you measure it, it's actually the vapor pressure, the amount of evaporative pressure in a chamber. You can measure that evaporative pressure, and the higher the evaporative pressure, the more water that's available. And so water activity is a ratio just 0 to 1. 1 being pure water, 0 being bone dry. And so the threshold rule of thumb is 0.6. and lower is very low water activity. So that's just something. And when I did nutrition bars, I convinced the owners of the company to buy a water activity meter. It was like $5,000, but it's well worth it for them because they were able to feel confident about what a nutrition bar often gets hard when you bite into it. Sometimes it can sit on the shelf. So it's a very important black garlic. Why does it have low water activity? Because the carbohydrates have been broken down to sugars. So that's why it's sweet. So normally raw garlic, not sweet at all. The carbohydrate in garlic and onion is a polymer of fructose called fructan, which I didn't learn about until way after school. You've heard of the term starch being used to describe potatoes. Starch is actually a polymer of glucose called amylose, and sometimes it's branched and they call it amylopectin. So those are the two most common. And anyway, so it's broken down, low water activity, giving a lot of information here. It's pretty interesting. Natural, so also the other reason it has a long shelf life, natural antimicrobial properties of garlic. I haven't even actually fully delved into what are these molecules that cause this, but it's been studied, and I have an interesting slide on it. So it can be, the shelf life, it can be last at least 3 months. It can be left out at room temperature, and it lasts over a year in the refrigerator, and it can be frozen for even longer. So it's kind of useful to know, definitely to keep in mind. And I usually keep it in a plastic container on my counter when I'm for myself. And then I will store it. The moment a batch is done, I'll throw it in the really cold refrigerator. And then I have a method of preventing condensation from forming when I get it ready for sale. So here's more tips for, this is basically just what I said right now about condensation. So condensation, it's not good because it can dilute the natural preserving acidity. If you took your garlic out of the refrigerator or freezer and put it on the countertop on a hot, humid day, condensation will form, and that could cause some spoilage. The question is like how bad could it be? But it's something you can avoid. By keeping it in a plastic container, you minimize the amount of ambient moisture that can come into contact. So that's basically anytime you have a cold soda in a room, you get that condensation on the outside. It's the same concept. Let's see, other concepts. Avoid peeling. I would avoid peeling garlic until you're ready to use the garlic. And there is pre-peeled garlic, in my opinion, tends to be more dry. You'll just find that there's some other manufacturers, they sell pre-peeled with no peel on it, and it just it doesn't have the spreadability like you'll see here. So on the cracker in front of you, it's like guacamole or butter, incredibly soft. Thank you.
When you're saying keeping it in a plastic container and such, that's whether you're freezing it and putting it in the refrigerator. If you're putting it on the counter, do you just leave it out, or do you put it in a jar?
I would still put it in a jar. Yeah, just maybe a fruit fly might find it. But yeah, that's about it.
And you said, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
You said plastic. Is it all right for glass? Because I really
Yeah, glass is good too. Yeah. I sometimes have glass containers, but I once in a while knock something over on the floor, and then. But yeah, if you want to avoid contact with plastic, because you don't know, like if it's leaching BPA or something like that. Yeah. I don't grow it. Yeah, so I don't have any land. I would. The garlic I buy from a importer, distributor. It either comes from Spain, Argentina, Mexico, California. I'm trying to get local. I've done a little bit with local, but not the supply. Like it's in season only like mid-July, September. It's very tricky. I did a presentation to chefs in May, and I was introduced to a young guy who's getting an organic plot of land in the North Fork ready. So it's pretty cool. So I'm hoping that. Yeah, and there's one here or out east. Oh, okay. I have to check it out. I'm always doing a farmer's market on the same day that they have it. So I'm like, well, I got to schedule around it. So, what's that? Gilroy's a famous one, yes. That's really, almost all the garlic in America comes from there. I don't know, the largest garlic, the one I first had was from a company called North American Black Garlic. And it's very good. And it's from somewhere in Minnesota, and they claim, I think they grow it themselves because it's so rural of an area. But yeah, Gilroy is famous. When I was at Nature's Bounty, we bought a lot of garlic for a supplement, and it was standardized to allicin, which I'll get to. So allicin is a very important molecule in garlic. Let's let's see, I'll get to that. So that's where we come to nutritional benefits. So this is a short summary. Black garlic is loaded with antioxidants, helps fight cancer growth, boosts heart health, preserves cognitive function, stabilizes blood sugar, kicks up immunity. These are word for word taken from Dr. Axe. I thought his website has a lot of nutritional information. I kind of went with it, but I've delved deeper into the science. On summary, it contains over 5 times on average the most healthy molecule in raw garlic, which is this molecule sulfur allyl cysteine, which SAC is the acronym. Raw garlic contains about just 2 milligrams per 100 grams. Black garlic on average, so it increases by 444% according to studies in Korea and Japan. Therefore, 1 dose of black garlic is equivalent to eating 5.4 cloves of black garlic. That's the typo. 1 clove of 5.4 of regular garlic when it comes to this very powerful antioxidant. Here's just a chart. So from FRG is fresh raw garlic to aged black garlic. And you can see the concentration of allicin. So allicin is the molecule that has that characteristic smell of garlic. It goes from 362 to 0. 345 is just 20 milligrams. This supports healthy blood vessels. Flavonoid content goes up tremendously. And then this is the most studied of all of the So flavonoids are a very generic class of molecule, but they're overall, I haven't even fully delved into also the total importance of all these molecules, but the most of the study I found is SAC, sulfur allyl cysteine, goes up, in some cases up to 19.4 milligrams from just 2 milligrams. This was interesting. This I did for chefs. I was kind of curious if there would be cooking with the ingredient, how should we expect the stability? And actually SAC is quite stable even in frying and grilling conditions, 190 Celsius, about 400 degrees Fahrenheit. So vitamin C is a good example of an antioxidant natural you find in citrus fruits especially. You lose almost up to 70% when you fry or grill a food, or vitamin E also. But SAC unusually is quite stable, so that's a really nice thing about black garlic for its antioxidant benefits. And this is from one of the studies I found. This one right here, clearance rate of free radicals. So this was, let me remember this study, down here, concentration, just in general showing white garlic in red and black garlic, its ability to clearance of free oxygen radicals, which cause DNA damage, cell damage. So just in summary, x-axis is garlic concentration, 0.5, 1, 2, 3. It was a concentration in a test tube quantity. And then y-axis was benefit absorbance of free damaging radicals. So you can see just the benefit black garlic has over traditional white garlic. In general, doubling black garlic does greatly increase antioxidant protection. Yeah, and I have some of these. These are all on my website too. I found these are, I have links to these as well. So SAC, antioxidant formation. This is kind of, I love chemistry, so I found this kind of interesting to see. So allin is the uncrushed raw garlic compound. And when you crush garlic, you get allicin. Immediately it smells very pungent. There's some molecular transition that happens immediately with the enzymes naturally in the garlic. And this is another molecule uncrushed in garlic. And it is, then when you slow heat black garlic, it also reorganizes into SAC. But I didn't draw an arrow here. Actually, also allicin, I have since recently found that allicin also does get converted into sulfur allyl cysteine. So this is actually I found from my college organic chemistry textbook. Actually, I was surprised to see they had a section on allyl molecules as a very stable absorber of free radicals. It was down here. I can't really see it too well on this slide, but it says, an allyl radical with 2 resonance forms is therefore more stable than a typical alkyl radical, which has only a single Kekuli structure. So anyone who's yes?
I made something garlic, I don't know, many years ago. The garlic turned blue.
Blue?
Blue. I have pictures of it.
It was white garlic.
White garlic, and it turned like a turquoise blue. And I wanted to know something. No, it was right there, like, right then. It wasn't like,
It was already blue.
no,
Oh, you opened it and it turned blue.
I don't know, it was like vinegar maybe or something, and it turned turquoise blue.
Interesting.
But that's when cell phones like first came out.
Okay.
but it was blue, like turquoise blue.
Turquoise blue.
And I was wondering something like that, you know?
Interesting. I'll think about it. I'll look it up. Is it, you know what? I'm the first time I'm gonna play Grok or AI or something.
No, I could swear I was putting it like maybe pickling it or something.
Huh.
And it turned like turquoise blue. And I actually had a picture of it.
Cool. Blue is a pretty rare color typically in food. I mean, but there's mold, right? But yeah, there's it's a hard natural color to achieve. An aside, but a friend of mine, I met a friend of a friend. He owns 5 or so Dunkin' Donuts. His family owns about 75 Dunkin' Donuts, and he developed a software. Yeah, no, he's not single. He's not. He eats a lot of donuts. So I don't know. But he's a nice guy, and so he developed a company. He's trying to sell to headquarters of Dunkin' Donuts, and he has trouble with blue color. So where he would print artwork onto a donut. So he's having trouble because they're banning, which is a good thing. They're banning these artificial colors. But he said that he has trouble because he can't get a good blue. That's a nice blue, like a pretty rich blue. Or we say cyan. Cyan, maybe you say? Interesting. I'll look it up. I'm gonna make an. Okay, I have to remember. Okay, so here's just a cool slide I found from one of the studies showing the antibacterial properties of garlic. So here it is, inhibiting. So this would be, here's the black garlic here, and you can see this is a control on the left, and this is the test, and I guess this is half control. So they streaked the plate, and you can see it grew, and then it stopped. So really, I'm not exactly sure which microorganisms these are. They're M, P, O, C. I should really double check. Yeah, so clearly there's definitely antibacterial properties. Some of the chemistry. So garlic is an allium like onion. The carbohydrate allium, as I said, is a polymer of fructose. The fruit sugar monosaccharide, as opposed to sugar is a disaccharide. We call sugar is actually, sucrose is traditionally, informally, it gets confusing when people say sugar, but usually sugar refers to sucrose, which is a disaccharide of glucose and fructose. Anyway, so the polymer of fructose is called fructan, as I said. And as I said, analogous to starch, amylose, amylopectin found in potatoes and corn, which are a polymer of glucose. So heating garlic causes the Maillard reaction, as I said, the dehydration. Yes, they call it a dehydration reaction in chemistry, where water is released, and an OH and an H are removed, and the fructose and amino acid from protein combine. And that's the start of the Maillard reaction. So the chemistry, kind of cool. What was I trying to show you here? Getting more into the Maillard reaction, just so you can visually see the molecule. Here's the OH, here's the H, releasing H2O. That's basically what you can take away from that. And it's a humid environment, inhibits slow black garlic caramelization. It slows down the black garlic caramelization, but humidity is necessary or the garlic will dry out. And it's believed that there is some fermentation occurring. I experimented with different other vegetables, and some actually worked really well. Like pearl onions were incredibly delicious. I did white pearl onions. They had notes of vanilla. It was incredible. So maybe I'll return to making them again, but it was really, anyway, I bring it up. Why is it just, it will dry out. I went on the side mentally. But, okay, and then example of 2 amino acids combining in the dehydration. So here's, it's just interesting to see that amino acids actually also combine. So this is an amino acid, this is an amino acid. It also releases water. So a lot of chemical reactions can be occurring in a anhydrous environment or without water around. And here's my other experiment. So I did elephant garlic. It was delicious.
I love elephant.
Yeah. It's a little sweeter, I guess. Yeah. Shallots were great on pizza.
You can only get it at Whole Foods.
You can sometimes, other places might, sometimes, it's like you don't always see it. Yeah, maybe Whole Foods regularly has it. I did carrots were actually pretty good. Radishes were good, but they were hard to get to fully caramelize. They would be just like light brown. They weren't shelf stable. Turnips were quite good, and then yeah, my favorite were the pearl onions. So flavor characteristics in the recipes. Eating 5 cloves. So what were we? So the flavor, yeah, I would describe. So these are kind of in food science. In every food science program, they break up the curriculum into You have food chemistry, food microbiology, where the microbes you should know about related to food. And then another aspect is a really fun class, but it's actually quite scientific and has to do with statistics, and that would be sensory evaluation of food, which is sort of what we're doing today, is we're tasting it and we're doing a really, we're not delving into like side-by-side comparison and stuff like that, but here's a fancy word, gustation, which I would never use, but that's on the tongue. And if you're really to analyze garlic for its unusual taste, we're really breaking it down. As a food scientist, you'd say it has both sweetness and sourness. And too sour, sometimes in my process, I'm still learning temperature and humidity, what affects it. But it seems sometimes it's extremely sour. Maybe the drier one is more sour. It has those notes of balsamic vinegar. Generally, I find it's not as desired as a sweeter black garlic. So I try to, when someone tries my garlic and the initial reaction I hear is, oh, it's very sweet. Oh, good, it worked out. But if someone hesitates and they don't say it's sweet, they think about it, then I say, is it like balsamic vinegar? And I'm like, oh, dang, it was a little too much. But it's still a nice characteristic. But I can kind of know what's going on their palate. So yeah, I wrote here, higher heat and slightly drier conditions seem to produce a sweeter result and caramelize faster, but risk over drying. So that's the challenge, is how to prevent that over drying from occurring, but still get a sweet result. Lower temperatures, around 140, and very humid, become more balsamic and maybe more fermented. So 140 is more the yeast or whatever wild microorganism, most likely yeast. So for example, they found it's well known that at geothermal vents, there's a lot of sulfur coming up from the earth, and it's very hot, and these microorganisms survive there. So it's there are all around us, we're surrounded by microbes, and so it's something related to that. It likes sulfur, and garlic is high in sulfur, and so it's sort of the mystery of black garlic, some type of fermentation. It's never been isolated what microbe is responsible, or microbes, but it's some sort of thermophilic, sulfur-loving, thiophilic bacteria. So fermentation definitely occurring. I did have some I think the foulest smelling vegetable was celery root. I think I never really cook with that. You ever hear that one? It's like it was, I was like, oh, maybe try it. It was horrible. There were other roots that were good. So overall, I prefer a spreadable texture, similar to avocado is how I describe it, rather than a traditional firm or gummy texture, which you tend to find more often. So here's a good picture of a firm gummy looking one. I have some in the front over there. The spreadable texture generally requires more time, 2 to 2.5 months, about double to triple the time due to higher humidity, which inhibits the Maillard reaction. And firm texture, less versatile, I find, for culinary uses. You can still puree the garlic even in a firm texture, but it tends to be like little bits. You really have to include a lot of liquid to get it to be used in a dish or a sauce. It's much easier to work with in its current state, how you have it in a spreadable form. So it's just way better. I would say when I do sampling at the farmer's market, the demos in the stores, 100 to 1 ratio people prefer spreadable, so it's very hard. So these were for chefs, but you guys definitely, these were some just interesting uses of applications of black garlic, a chicken masala, Reuben sandwich, a prime rib, all things really already benefit by a sweet and savory addition from black garlic. Sauteed spinach and mushrooms, a turkey marinade. I met somebody who was doing a basting. He was basting, I think, pork with it. A turkey marinade, cranberry sauce. I guess it's interesting. I mean, it might work. The sourness might work. I don't know. Empanadas. I saw many people today were getting fresh empanadas, and I was putting a little drop on their empanada, and they went nuts. It was nice. Meatballs. Yes.
You said the Babylon?
Yeah, that's where I was today.
It's every week?
They're there, every week, but today was the last one of the season. But the Huntington Market, which I'll be at next week, will run through November, I think. So if you want to go to another farmer's market, that one's a little far though, but yeah, I'm not sure.
There's one in Bayshore, I think.
Yeah, someone was telling me, Islip.
Oh, Islip, yeah.
Yeah, I'll make a note. And And then this was an interesting idea. Pumpkin soup might be interesting. I don't know. I would say soups can be challenging. You might lose the flavor of the garlic. My personal favorites: toasting with eggs. Spread it on my. I smear the garlic onto my toast every day. I have it. Just at least one clove, maybe 3 if I'm feeling really like I want to indulge. And that's one of my favorites. And then usually sometimes, yeah. I don't think I smell it. I think I would. It dissipates pretty quickly. It doesn't have an aftertaste, so it's mainly the allicin molecule has the aftertaste. And so because there's no allicin left after making black garlic, you shouldn't have any kind of residual. I've never noticed it. So yeah, I think I don't think it. Yeah, the answer is pretty much. I'm pretty confidently I'd say no. Yeah.
So I'm heavy with. Yeah, me too. It's the next day, the day it's coming out of my pores.
Mm.
I'll say, did you have garlic? It's reeking out of me.
Wow. I'm. I would say I use deodorant, but I don't think anybody's ever. I don't think it's anything beyond a little all over. Yeah. But yeah, steak. Steak is fantastic when it's already cooked. I think it's wonderful. I liked it. I think traditionally a good seared steak. Hummus is fantastic. I have it all the time with hummus with my breakfast. You can incorporate it by blending. You could either incorporate it together with the hummus, or you could spread it on layer by layer. Not too scientific here. Better to spread black garlic first. I find that the completely like nude bread really receives the garlic better. Whereas if you already put something on the bread, the garlic can kind of slide off the side. So it's better to have a raw piece of bread to spread your garlic on, and then add your butter or whatever you might want to add, or hummus, because it needs like a rough surface to smush. Avocado is great as well. Avocado is really kind of mild, but olive oil is fantastic also. You can make a really nice dip for people or for yourself. Mayo, so like I said, Heinz did a limited edition mayo, black garlic in England. Desserts are theoretically possible. I've kind of tinkered a little bit with chocolate, but it's not so easy. Maybe like a really sour black garlic might be better, like it dipped in chocolate or something, but it's not really the best use for it. It's really if you're like a pastry chef, you want to do something different, it's theoretically possible. And then, wow, that was quick. That was the end of my presentation. So yeah, and then here's, I have any questions? Thank you. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And then I'll demonstrate when we're done. At the farmer's market, I do have a fun invention. So as a food scientist, I love to do tinker on different things. And I didn't get to this part though. There's a little bit more here. Let me keep going. We have a little more time? We're at 4. Yeah, have we tasted yet? Oh, did we do? I think there's 2 more steps. Oh, do you have one in front of you? Do you want to?
Yeah, I tasted that. No, I wasn't sure.
I have a couple more things here. What problems does black garlic solve? Yeah, I do have a little bit more. Sorry, that slide's out of order. It solves the shelf life problem. It solves the odor problem. The fact that it solves that you can have it for breakfast and not have it linger on your palate. It solves the problem. It has such a high antioxidant benefit. It's directly edible. You don't have to cook it. It's already cooked. It's soft texture. It's more versatile. It's easier to work with. The firm texture, not quite as much, but it has its own uses. So you can have it still raw as it is, the black garlic as it is, with a wine and cheese plate. Yeah. Yes.
When you're doing this process, does it eliminate any of the cloves in the head, or do you still get the full amount?
The same.
Sometimes when you open up, when you do that's my son. When you open a clove, there's so many pieces.
Yeah.
So many individual
Same.
cloves in that head.
Yep.
So it would be
Totally preserved. Yeah. It's still in the original. You can see this one's the drier one. It's usually I shrink wrap them. Here's an example. You can see, but it's the same number of yeah.
I don't know if it kind of dehydrated so much that you lost some of the.
Not at all. Yeah, you can see this one here is.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Oh yeah, okay.
It's still there. It's all there.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
It's
Very
100%. And then if you peel
Yeah.
it a little bit. So I pre-peeled it to make it easy for you guys.
Right.
But you can see
I know.
this one's a little I'm trying not to make it too messy, but yeah, this one came
Okay.
out nice. Oh, this is still,
okay.
and this is, I thought was firm. It's a little lighter, but you can see with it, you can take it with a butter knife, and there.
Yeah.
Yeah, still spreadable. Yeah, you could try it. Nice.
I think I'm gonna have to buy it now.
Yeah, I think these ones I labeled as firm, but I think they're actually really nice and they're still sweet. I think they might. So I wasn't sure. So once in a while I've had like some hardcore customers a gentleman who he purchased like 20 at a time, and
It's a little
tartar, right? Yeah.
That I've had here.
Exactly. So I didn't want to sell them. I wanted to keep them separate. I would say though anyway. So it's right now I'm at like 90% spreadable like on your table, and then 10% I have as a little bit a little too sour, but still nice. So anyway, yeah, that would be a little bit of flavor. And shortage. The one problem with it. Let me go back a second. Oh, is that it? Yeah. The one problem is it is expensive. It's a time-consuming process. It is energy intensive. There's the loss from over-drying happens. It takes a lot of quality control monitoring it, the labor, the equipment, the packaging, storage. But especially one of the toughest is really, and it's all very difficult. Just the monitoring. Each bulb has to be inspected to make sure it's not over-dried, or is it done yet? When I'm caramelizing it, I can tell. And even when it's done, you have to have the garlic oriented away to let the excess moisture has to evaporate. If you don't let the garlic breathe, it can spoil, because the even though the black garlic might be done, it's still hot, and it has to the outside peel has to dry. So I have developed a whole process, but there's everything. It's nuanced, but I have trial and error. And then for the consumer, it can be difficult to peel sometimes if they're getting used to it. Or maybe these are smaller bulbs, and they were really good. They were not from China. My requirement was not from China, but unfortunately, they were a little tiny, and the ones you had were really big. And I needed to get some, and sometimes I have to use what I can get. And I've had some consumers complain that I have to do more peeling to get to the garlic, which is annoying, and I get it.
So that's what you're gonna tell me, I have to
Deal with peeling.
buy that one?
It's more peeling involved, yeah. So that was annoying, especially if you have a lot of it. You're like, oh, there's more in there. They're a little smaller. So if I do see the big ones from California, Mexico, Spain, Argentina, I'm like, oh, these are the easy to use one, easy to peel. Tasting time. Okay, so if you haven't tasted yet, and please do. If you want more, there's plenty more here. You sure? On your way out, you can grab them.
I said when I tasted the first one, I said it would taste like a fig. I mean a prune.
Ah.
Yeah. So, you know.
Yeah, it's fascinating. It's like these certain fruit flavors develop. Definitely. So the ones that are more sour, you can kind of blend with sour or add a desired sour note, or cut through a fatty cheese or meat. Ones that are very sweet, as I said, highly desired. So there's no salt. It's interesting that there's no salt there might be some natural sodium content in garlic, but very little, and no bitter. Thus can serve with salty food, cheese, or in the South. So I recently read an interesting book written by a food scientist called "Why Humans Like Junk Food," and it's a really funny title. But in it discusses, one of them is a fatigue from a sense. Sometimes you want to contrast like certain palate sensations: sweet, sour, salty, bitter, umami. Those are the main senses on the tongue: sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and umami. We have these regions of sensory detection on our tongue, and you don't want to overdo it. So if something's already salty, you're not going to add more salt to it. If something's already bitter, you don't want to add more bitterness. So certain things combine well. So just in general, and some things are sort of obvious, but then you can break it down to the scientific aspect. But it has so what is umami is an interesting thing. It's actually the tongue can detect protein. So that's what umami is. Savory is actually protein, and we need protein to survive. And so from human evolution, we've developed the ability to detect protein in food. And what I recently learned was that black garlic is very high in glutamic acid. So that's part of the sourness, is glutamic acid. And what's the other very common artificial version that we know of? MSG, monosodium glutamate. So when glutamic acid hits the palate, it neutralizes from the acidic to your palate is neutral 7. The glutamic acid becomes glutamate. And that's the sensation. Although the artificial form in like really low quality soy sauce is MSG, they put monosodium glutamate from they microbially ferment a certain, I believe it's a yeast, and it produces this MSG. So anyway, but it's interesting. The natural form of this umami is that's why it's both sour, it's the glutamic acid, and it has this really delicious. You get that response. It's from it's an umami. An aroma, balsamic, tamarind, fig, prune, as you said. Perhaps some smokiness. I don't know why that one is a mystery to me at this point. And then some of the raw garlic, Allicin notes might still be present, but hopefully not. Yeah, and I think that's everything. So I think, yeah, I covered. And then I wanted to do this quickly. Does anybody have any other questions before I do something silly? Okay, cool. So I was inspired by this very famous restaurant in Chicago, Alinea. They make an edible balloon. So this is fully edible, hard to believe. And this is a helium tank, and a droplet of sugar hangs on to the helium tubing, and they quickly turn it on, and it inflates into a balloon, and they tie an edible bow, serve it for dessert. Chefs bite into it. Their voice gets, the patrons get high from the voice gets high from the helium.
Does it make a popping sound?
When they bite into it, you can see what happens. It just sort of like deflates. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, they do. So I designed this wand. It has these little holes in it. And my goal was to do, so during COVID, I was tinkering on bioplastics. I was no way to do sales. I was trying to make a saran wrap that would be like algae based. And you could put it on it was just so wasteful. I saw so much waste with plastic wrap. And a friend of mine saw it. He's like, oh, that reminds me of actually the Alinea bubble. So then that's how I found out about it. And so I was like, oh, maybe I can make something. And then when I started doing farmers markets, I saw kids coming to the market. They looked really bored. I was like, this would be a great product. So I designed this wand. I tinkered up with it. I got really close. My version, you didn't need a stove. It wasn't 300 Fahrenheit, this is really hot and cures quickly, and kids can't do it. These are really skilled chefs working in tandem. So I got really close, but my version was too slippery. So it was lukewarm, but too slippery. So I was going to give up on the wand. I tried soap with the wand because I was like, well, I'll come back to this one day. It actually makes a really fun soap bubble. So it's not edible, but this is a lot of fun. You guys are like, what is this?
Very nice.
So you can, so if you've ever seen Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, which is a food scientist, so you remember the fizzy lifting drink scene? So, pretty fun, and it makes two types of bubbles. This one, and you can do really all. That's one caught. This had a little bit of a tail on it. Yeah, so you can kind of. So I call this bubble science, and it comes with a master's degree in bubble science. I give the kids a little scientific thing, but yeah, pretty wild. So that's the end of the presentation. Thank you for listening. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Thank you so much. A lot of fun. And yeah, if you want to, I do have my vegetable jerky here and some tomatoes. I can give out some samples too while you're here. I think, you like that? Yeah.